guys. So recently there's been a lot of talk about vaccines and with a clear divide between people who are strongly opposed to them versus everyone else. And there is a lot of information available if you choose to look for it, that raises huge red flags and big questions in regards to the safety of the vaccines. But recently our Prime Minister Tony Abbott has been talking about and then brought into action the fact that any parent who chooses not to immunise their children will have their Centrelink payments cancelled. So that's like our version of welfare, I guess. And there's also another payment called childcare benefit, which is like, I guess it's like a subsidy of you pay X amount in childcare, and then you get X amount back, like percentage wise. All of that will be cancelled if your child's immunisations are not up to date. So previously there were allowable exemptions, like religious exemption and a couple of others. Now there are no acceptable exemptions. It's either have your child immunised or you don't receive any Centrelink payments. That in itself is implying that the only people who choose not to immunise their children or don't immunise their children for whatever reason are those, those poor uneducated folk that receive government payments. But it's not the case. It's a lot more widespread than that. And people from all walks of life, different nationalities, religions, different socioeconomic categories. It's just across the board, people who are thinking twice about these vaccines. So that in itself should make you question it. It's not like everyone who is opposed to the vaccines or questioning the vaccines has just suddenly lost their shit for no reason. And how can so many people, we're all just spontaneously lost our shit all at the same time and all are saying the same shit independently of each other without knowing each other or anything like that, and we all come to the same conclusions? Like, how is that? How can that be? Whereas the opposite side, I can tell you how it can be that so many people are for them. And that's because of the way that it's presented in the media, the news and everything like that. Anything that is presented in the news is automatically taken as gospel, and that's just the facts. That's how it is. The news is where you go to get the facts, and if it's not in the news, then it's nothing that we need to worry about. And if it's on the news, then that's the facts. They've gone out and they've done their investigative journalism and they've got all the facts and they've asked all the hard-hitting questions and shit. They've got the facts, they've got the information. It's not the case anymore. Laws have actually been passed to make it legal now for the news to present propaganda as fact. Just let that sink in for a sec. They can literally write a script based on whatever agenda, whatever the end result is that they want to be, what the outcome they want to be. They can write the script for that and put it on the teleprompter. The news reporter is going to read it verbatim and everyone's going to sit at home and go, fair enough, that's facts, that's the news, they said. And they're allowed to do that. They can literally make up any old fairy tale and present it to you as fact and everyone just takes it as fact because it's the news that's presenting it. Like, there was obviously, there was no big, like, broadcast saying, like, we're now legally allowed to bullshit you. And, like, who the fuck reads, like, changes in legislation and shit? Like, who, like, you know, the general consensus, I guess, would be, like, fucking, you know, who's got time for that? Like, who gives a fuck, you know what I mean? If there was any important changes to the legislation, they'd be on the news, right? Like, we'd hear about it in the news, we'd read it in the papers and shit. Like, you know, they can worry about reading all of that shit, and they just, you know, condense it down and dumb it down for me and tell me all about it on the news at 6 o'clock. But if it's about the news and about how it's not necessarily always 100% so factual anymore, who's going to tell you about it? The news isn't going to fucking tell you about it, are they? So that's interesting. But another thing that's interesting is the fact that Tony Abbott will not be immunising his daughters. He's got daughters, and he will not be immunising them. So what does that tell you? That in itself should send, like, alarm bells ringing, fucking red flags waving, like, what the fuck is wrong with the immunisations? What's wrong with the vaccines if our own Prime Minister won't administer them to his children? Why not? If they're so good to be at the point where they need to just, they have to force them on everyone so that we can all see how good they are, right? Then why is he denying his daughters the joy of knowing how great these immunisations are? You would think that they would be the first ones to get it because they're so good. That's why we all have to get them, because they're great. They are 100% foolproof. Nobody gets sick from them. Nobody dies. There is absolutely nothing wrong with them. That's why his daughters are going to be the first in line. They're going to get, like, priority batch. Like, they're going to get them ahead of everyone else because, you know, that's the power of privilege, right? His daughters are first in line. They're going to get their fucking injections and they're going to be set. Like, you know, fuck the commoners. Like, you know, VIPs first, right? No? Oh, he's not getting them at all because what the fuck is wrong with them? A whole bunch of shit is wrong with them. That's why they're only good for us common folk who just fucking blindly believe whatever the fucking news says. You know, it's not, you know, the social norm is just to just accept shit. You know, don't rock the boat. Don't question shit. Whatever is important will be presented to you in the news in a nice, you know, dumbed down, stupefied form that you fucking simple folk can understand. You know, don't worry about reading amendments to legislation and all that shit. Like, you know, we'll just take care of it. Just trust us. We're the media. We got a handle on this. But the media is owned by corporations and private entities, right? And the media globally is owned by the same corporations and private entities. So how do people expect to get a fair, balanced, factual account of world events when a private entity owns the news, pays the presenters and the journalists who haven't existed for fuck knows how long? When I was in high school, you know, we did like a component on journalism as part of, like, you know, our core, like, English thing. And, you know, it's all about, like, you know, fact checking and fucking research and all of that shit. They don't do that anymore. The news presenter goes in, gets their makeup done, sits there, fucking talks shit, drinks some coffee, goes out wearing what they've been told to wear, which is why all the females have their skirts on and shit with the glass top tables so you get a really good view of the legs and shit. And I feel obligated to say I'm not a feminist, even though we've clearly established that, just in case you're just new, refer to my last video. And they just read off the teleprompter, whatever the fuck it says, they just say it. They're just like a parrot. They're not out there fucking, you know, being actual journalists and reporters and shit, like, you know, fact checking and, like, you know, checking the sources and seeing that they're actually reliable sources with factual information and not just like something made up because their seniors have some, you know, business dealings with fucking X corporation, so we can't tell the public that fucking it's actually really bad that there's a whole fuckload of mercury in the immunizations, because then no one's going to want it, and that's going to affect X corporation negatively, because then they can't dump their fucking mercury that comes from the waste of creating their product by, you know, in the immunizations anymore. So fucking we can't report on that, so just tell them the fucking immunizations are all great, and the people who say otherwise are fucking retarded, and they'll buy it and we move on. And then we can just talk more about the fucking Bali 9 and make everyone feel really fucking sad about some fucking drug dealers who got fucking the death penalty in Bali. That is a whole nother video. And yeah, just keep that in mind. That's coming too. Just look into shit, and just look into shit, you know? Ask questions. Now that you are aware of the fact that the media can, you know, put a ribbon on some fucking bullshit propaganda and present it as fact, and there is absolutely nothing criminal about it. Well, there is something criminal about it, but there's nothing legally criminal about it. Now that you're aware of that, that should make you question things that are presented to you in the news. You know, like how people get shot and there's no blood from their fucking bullets and shit. These magical bullets that shoot people dead in the street and like leave no blood. You know, stuff like that. Stuff that if you weren't so entrenched in the whole like news is fact thing, that you would question and be like, how is that possible that that guy just got shot like 6 times and didn't like shed a single drop of blood? Like, how does that work? You know, people don't question anything. It's just like whatever's on the news is just how it is, and fucking, yeah. Anyway, I could fucking go on about this forever, so I'm going to shut up now. I've only just hit over 80 subscribers, so let's see how many I've got left after this video. I could be back in the 20s, we'll see, huh? Thank you so much for watching, guys. Yes, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.